Welcome everybody! Inspired by FlygonHG's Team Rocket themed Nuzlocks, I decided to do one of my own. This time in Hoenn. The rules for this run are simple. Standard Nuzlocke fare, except my catch pool has been narrowed down to Pokemon predominantly used by Team Rocket Grunts in the games leading up to this one. However, when you look at which of these are, actually available in Hoenn, this doesn't even add up to a full team's worth of Pokemon. So to make this a tad more interesting, I added Pokemon from Jessie and James' teams in the anime. More specifically, Pokemon that accompanied them for more than one episode of the show through Hoenn. Without further ado, let's kick this off. We begin our story with my family and I moving into our new house. Why were we moving? Well, you see, my dad used to be head of a major crime syndicate back in Kanto by the name of Team Rocket. You might have heard of him. For years, we lived luxuriously and were on the cusp of taking over the entire region when some brat beat my father so badly he had a mental breakdown. The result was that he wanted to spend the rest of his days quietly in the countryside. So he got facial reconstruction surgery, got the family fake IDs, and moved us to the middle of nowhere in a new region where he took up his old job of being a gym leader. Unlike my father, I refuse to live this pathetic life. We aren't mere peasants. We were once borderline royalty. So, with my father constantly away at work, I take advantage of my freedom and begin rebuilding the Rocket dynasty. My first act of benevolence, leaving scraps of meat near the local professor's research area. In turn, attracting a wild Zigzagoon there one day and providing a distraction for me to steal one of his Pokemon. However, I get caught in the process and he begs for help. Knowing I didn't have enough team members to fight off the law yet, I agree. In doing so, the chump decides to give me the Pokemon as a thank you gift. What he didn't know though, was that ruined it for me. Why would I want a Pokemon given to me as a gift? That's just wrong. I didn't earn that whatsoever. A real man steals his Pokemon. So I drop the fella off at a nearby farm and catch a new starter, a Wurmple by the name of Mother. Once that whole ordeal is settled, I decide my next order of business is to establish Team Rocket as a threat again by becoming champion of the region. Now, I'm gonna need all 8 badges to do that though, so I grind up Mother into a Dustox and begin my conquest. The first target was Roxanne, as she was the closest gym that didn't have my dad in charge, and I figured the latter would just give me a badge if I asked. This is a little problematic though, as Roxanne's team consisted of, would you look at that, 3 rock-type Pokemon, giving her a huge advantage over my singular bug. I figured we might have a chance, since rock types tend to be weak to special attacks, and we have a pretty decent early game one in Confusion. However, I quickly realized how wrong I am as I barely make it to her signature nose pass on the first go around. On the second run, I take a slightly different approach and try the Cascoon strategy of spamming Harden right off the bat, maxing out our physical defense. It works better, especially with the Oranberry I gave Mother, but sadly, the results are the same. At this point, I was ready to chalk up the run as impossible. We were simply outmatched and I had no other viable encounters at this point in the game. Throw in how the low level cap made it hard to get any gimmicky moves that could potentially turn the tides, and I was really in a rough spot. Something didn't sit right with me though. I didn't give up on a challenge this early. We didn't even make it one gym in. I am not throwing in the towel yet. After a lot of research, I devise a new strategy. Albeit it tiptoes the line of cheating. But, before you react to that, hear out the whole plan. Alright, so during my research, I found out there was a 1% chance of obtaining the TM rest if you had a Pokemon between the levels of 51 and 70 in your party with the ability Pickup. Now, my rules state that I can't use a Pokemon in battle that's over the level cap or isn't Team Rocket affiliated. Notice, however, that I simply can't use them in battle. Say I obtain such a Pokemon, like one of the local Zigzagoons, and painstakingly leveled it up to this range, I could fight trainers with Mother until the raccoon eventually picked up the aforementioned TM, which, would you look at that? Dustox can learn! So yeah, I did just that. And not only did I do this, but to obey by the rules, I only caught 1 Zigzagoon, rather than a whole party, and made myself suffer the additional amount of time that cost me to obtain the TM. Was it a stupid plan that would waste an absurd amount of time over a goal that quite frankly might not even be worth it? Yes. But you were asking a member of the organization that spent 2 decades trying and failing to catch a yellow rat, so do with that what you will. After an unholy amount of battles versus wild Pokemon, the disc is finally obtained. Oh, and by unholy, I mean I literally had to start new runs because Mothra would reach the level cap before we managed to get the TM. That was fun, to say the least. Returning to the gym with our newfound move, we kick things off once again by spamming Harden until we are at max physical defense. Between that and rest, our capacity to tank hits has gone up tenfold. Taking advantage of this, I even get Roxanne to waste one of her potions on Geodude. I tried to get rid of her other one by using Poison Sting to whittle Geodude down to the red, but sadly the rock gets poisoned as I do so, and that must have told Roxanne to not waste a potion on it, leaving it up for use on her next Pokemon, Nosepass, the bane of the run up to this point. Upon seeing the biggest nose in existence, I go for a confusion only to remember just how little it does. So from there, I opt for a series of Poison Stings instead, hoping to afflict her with a status condition. It takes a bit, but bada bing bada boom, we eventually get it, and now I can deal damage even while asleep. All it takes from there is a long-winded sequence of naps and slaps, and we finally take down the Rock Titan. Nose pass, more like nose piss, am I right or am I right? Oh, there's still more to the gym, but thankfully it's just another measly Geodude who we wipe the floor with. And with that, we obtain the first gym badge and move on, baby! Now the world really opens up for us, as we can skip a fight with May to go deliver a letter to Steven Stone, which in turn allows us to skip the second gym leader too. Taking advantage of my newfound freedom, I explore until I find some familiar faces, snagging a Zubat from Granite Cave and an Oddish from Route 10. With General Batten and Medicinal Plant added to the team, we head back to Tango with Brawly. I kick off the battle like last time, having Mothra spam to move hard until its defense is maxed. Although I probably didn't need to do so, given how the only attack moves Brawly's team has are fighting type moves, which Dustox is 4 times resistant to. Either way, he can barely scratch us as we confusion his team to death. Relieved that the second leg of the journey was nowhere near as bad as the first, we head back to Slateport where we visit the local museum. There, we run into some wannabe Team Rocket trying to steal ship plans. Now, growing up in a family of mobsters, you learn quickly that there can only be one criminal organization. Anyone else steps up, and people take you less seriously, you lose out on money, etc. These hooligans were in my turf. I gotta show this region that Team Rocket means business, and my first major decision as CEO is wiping these fools off the map. After completely bodying Team Splash, I start making my way over to the next town, but I get interrupted by the professor's kid along the way. Apparently she's on to me and vows to stop my plans. She isn't much of a threat though, thanks to Sleep Powder from Medicinal and Wing Attack from General Batten. Speaking of the Batten charge, we're now at the point in the game where I get access to the Soothe Bell and the Friendship Tracker. In other words, that means it's time to abuse the game's friendship mechanics to give me a late game Pokemon. Love me, damn it! On top of which, I get access to a variety of new moves, such as the TM Attract from a girl in Verdant Turf, and Swagger from the tutor in Slateport. And oh, we were gonna need it, as the next step of the journey was the one I was worried about the most. Watson. Anyone who has Nuzlocked Emerald before knows that this man is a menace. With his access to Pokemon like Magneton and Manectric before most people can even evolve their own teammates of similar strength, a lead who could blow up at any moment, and a variety of means to paralyze you, and it is easy to see why he is such a threat. To make matters worse, we have no Pokemon with access to ground type moves. Hell, our only Pokemon with an offensive skill set is weak to electric moves. Getting through this gym seemed near impossible, or at least it did when I first took a glance at it. While it didn't take me as long as the rock type gym, I eventually come up with a strategy and send it. The battle starts off with Dish versus Voltorb. I immediately put it in nap mode via a Sleep Powder and pivot to Mothra. From there, I try to knock it out via a Psybeam before it could wake up and explode. But before I could do so, Watson wastes one of his 2 potions, saving the orb. From there, I try again to no avail, as my fears become reality and Voltorb goes kablooey. Thankfully, as I had hoped, Mothra is tanky enough to eat this hit and recover her health via the recently acquired move Moonlight the next turn. Watson's next Pokemon isn't nearly as bad, as a couple Psybeams are enough to do the trick this time around. The following enemy is the exact opposite story though, as the gym leader's Magneton was a tank that I quite frankly had no good means of hitting. However, it had one weakness that I could expose. It's a little convoluted, but here's the plan. Since it was Gen 3, the move Stun Spore works on electric types. So I could swap the dish, have a Cherry Berry on her so she could eat a potential Thunder Wave, and get a Spore off. In doing so, reducing the chance of Magneton successfully hitting me. But that's not all. If you go to Watson's Bulbapedia page, you'll see that his Magneton has no physical attacks. Using this, and my recently acquired access to a certain move tutor, I hit the doofus with a Swagger, further improving my chances of dodging an attack, all without having to worry about the enemy stat boost that comes with it. What's even better is that Swagger can be stacked, meaning even if Magneton is already confused, I can use the move again to further sharply boost its attack. In doing so, increasing the amount of damage the enemy would do to itself if confusion inflicts self-harm. After getting the second one off, this is evidenced when Magneton hits itself and it does decent damage. To ensure this scenario works even better for me, I get a third Swagger off, maxing the enemy's attack, and then swap to General Baton. Normally, this kind of move would be begging for death, as Baton is weak to electric type moves. However, not only does she have the effects of paralysis and confusion on her side, she also has access to the move Bite. With this additional chance of flinching, I figured the odds of Magneton hitting me were pretty low, and with no other path to victory clear, I go for it. Things seem to be going well until Watson uses his last potion, restoring Magneton to near full health. From there, the battle becomes a back and forth series of anime-esque one-ups, as he tries to paralyze me, but a Cherry Berry I placed on Baton prior to the fight saves my hide. Afterwards, Magneton snaps out of confusion, only to be put right back into it via a Supersonic. Sadly, it doesn't save me from the ensuing Thunder Wave, but it is enough for me to get the dub, as Magneton dies by its own hand. Before I can even get a chance to catch my breath, out comes another massive threat in Watson's Manectric. I swapped the dish and hit him with a Stun Spore, followed by a singular Swagger this time around, as the Hound had already gotten off 3 howls, putting in a net attack boost of +5. Thankfully, its only physical attack was a measly Quick Attack, but that kind of boost we still didn't want to mess around. So I do the clearly rational thing and pivot back to our flying type. The status conditions allow for a clean swap, as Manectric hits itself upon Baton's landing, on top of which it triggered Dog's Berry, getting rid of that potential nuisance. With the CPU out of healing items, this was our best chance to seal the win. To make sure we capitalized it, I entered the final stage of my plan by hitting Manectric with an Attract, which we were able to obtain just before the gym thanks to our recently acquired access to Verdanturf Town. After casting this spell, the dog hits himself again and things are looking pretty good. That is, until Manectric snaps out of confusion on the next turn and hits us with a Shockwave, nearly killing the general. At the very least, our remaining status conditions buy us enough time to get up another Supersonic and Wing Attack, putting both the CPU and I one hit away from fainting. Knocking on death's door, it all came down to this: a shootout between a crippled dog and a general on his last bullet. The run hinged on the fate of this next move. And what do you know, the power of love immobilizes Manectric as General Baton swings down from the high rope to land the finishing blow. That's right folks, somehow, someway, we beat the electric gym leader with a Pokemon that was critically weak to it, especially a radish and an insect you commonly see getting zapped by lantern traps in the summer. With that ordeal finally behind us, we realize it's time to get some reinforcements. So we snag a Coughing from Fiery Path and a Seviper from Route 114. We were well on our way to reviving the glory days of Team Rocket when I stumbled across another wannabe group of criminals. Apparently their whole shtick is that they want to make a bunch of volcanoes blow up, and that's cool and all if you're a 6th grader, but you are literally standing next to the volcano. If it erupts, we will all die. Out of self-preservation and not heroism, I smite their leader using a combo of Attract and Confuse Ray from Baton, and head back to our journey. Soon after, we catch a Machop, and why not? Because why not? Okay, no more puns, I promise. Anyways, we go to the next gym where we are met by Flannery, the fire type user. On paper, things aren't looking so hot for this gym either, as her team is loaded with Sunny Day and Overheat users. That kind of boosted attack could easily one-shot anyone who doesn't resist it at this stage of the game, and oh man, we don't have any flame-resistant Pokemon. Great, that's just fantastic. Oddly enough, I feel a lot better this time around, as I not only have a plan, but a couple contingencies as well. After some snooping around on Bulbapedia and the damage calculator, we start the fight. I lead with Baton, who's able to take out Flannery's Numel in a couple wing attacks. Next up is her Slugma. Instead of attacking though, I go for a Torment, using a TM I got back in Slateport to ensure the snail can't use any move twice in a row. Immediately after, I pivot to Viperry Bonds, whose sole purpose is to stall until Flannery uses Overheat. This is where my plan kicks in. If you look at her team, you'll notice that this is her only attack move. Now I can safely swap to Jimmy Buffett. And since Slugma is like one of two Pokemon in the game that old Jimmy can outspeed, I know I can get an Encore off next, which is key because Torment assured that I would swap into a move that would either do no or very little damage to my next Pokemon, Chop Huey. With Huey, I can now safely spam Bulk Up since Slugma was forced to alternate between these weak moves and struggle. This being because Torment prevents the repeat of moves, but Endure forces the user to use the same move until it wears out. When it comes time for the Slug to repeat a move, it'll be forced to struggle thanks to the stack. This little trick of mine nets me 3 Bulk Ups, and between that and Huey's Guts ability working off a poison status I picked up from the local Coughing, I'm able to confidently one-shot Slugma and the ensuing camera per the aforementioned damage calculator. All that was left was Torkoal. Sadly, while Huey was faster, the numbers said I wouldn't be able to pull off a similar feat here, so I go to the second part of my plan. Sacrifice Viperry Bonds so I can get a clean swap to Jimmy Buffett.
Man, I'm dead.
Since I noticed Flannery had a white herb on our turtle, an item that resets any decreased stats, I assumed she would go for 2 overheats right off the bat, as the first one would lower her special attack, allowing her to go for a second one at full power immediately thereafter. The main plan banked on this, and thankfully it worked as she does just that. In turn, allowing me to go for a Mirror Coat, which sends the attack back at double the power, giving me the win. And before we go further, yes, sacrificing Viperry was cruel. I get it. But, hear me out. I am Team Rocket. I don't care whose corpse I have to step on to reach victory. I will achieve my goals by any means necessary. That and I didn't know I also take care of the tortoise outside of Jimmy Buffett, so I figured, let's make sure the Blue Terror doesn't get crit on her way in. How do I do that? Sacrifice, that's how. Only real Team Rocket fans know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean, give me some, come on. Up top, you know what I mean, come on. And, by that I mean subscribe. Come on. You know you want to do it, you know you want to do it, come on. Back to the run though. We take one step outside before May shows up again. While she goes on about how she'll stop our evil plans, I pickpocket her pair of Go Goggles and head over to the desert. There, we strategically go into Mirage Tower first and catch a Sandshrew named Dwight Schrute. This was huge because it allowed me to then abuse Dupe's Claws to assure I get the low spawn rate Cacnea in the main desert. After some reflecting, I realized Team Rocket might start becoming notorious again soon, as we defeated half the gym leaders and made headway versus the 2 quote-unquote evil organizations of the region. Because of which, law enforcement might be on our ass soon, so we're gonna need even more backup. Who better than the former leader of Team Rocket, my father? We go back to Petalburg and I tell Pops about how well things are going, only for his reaction to shock me. He was repulsed. His exact words? "Son," I said, "son, we cannot go down this path again. What I did in Kanto was wrong, and we cannot bring that kind of suffering to another land." I insisted, but Pops went quiet for a moment before saying, "You really are your father's son," I said. "I have no choice but to stop you here for the sake of the entire region." Before I could get myself together, he sends out a Pokemon and attacks me. His own flesh and blood. I knew there was a chance this would happen. Hell, I even hunted down a special TM just for this occasion. But I still didn't think it would come to this. With no other choice, I send out General Baden and the fight commences. Having heard the dolt talk about his new team for the entire drive over, I knew he led with this damn teddy bear that I could easily overpower. And then he'd send out his Vigoroth, who was also pretty easy to outmuscle. Having gotten rid of his fodder, next came out the heavy hitters. First up was Lanoon, who at the surface level might look innocent, but is actually packing a belly drum that, with its top-notch speed, could lead to the demise of our entire team. So I swapped to Jimmy Buffett, who was the perfect counter since one of two things would happen. Either 1, Lanu would play the bongos as Jimmy landed, in turn guaranteeing it would follow up with one of its physical attacks thereafter, which it'd likely survive and be able to swing back with a literal counter for the kill. Or situation 2, Jimmy would swap into an attack. Thus, on the next turn, I could use Encore and assure Lanoon either locks onto only using Belly Drum or being unable to use it until I likely finished it off. As you can see, Little Drummer Boy chose door number 2, and we are on to Giovanni's last Pokemon, a Slacking. While powerful, any competitive trainer worth their money knows it has an Achilles heel in the form of Truant, an ability which forces the ape to do nothing every other turn. Having snagged the TM Toxic along the way and slapping it on Mother, who learns the move Protect naturally, we can just stall until I win. What? What do you mean healing doesn't count as a turn in which Slacking can move? And just like that, I let my ego get the best of me and I lose my beloved starter. And while I'm at it, any ties to my family, as I renounce my father and steal his facade TM as I leave for good. Shortly after, some stranger comes up to me and insists I follow him. Apparently, he's a massive Team Rocket fanboy who followed my family to the Hoenn region, hoping we rebuild the organization here. He'd been spying on Giovanni like a weirdo when he saw the battle that just ensued. Now knowing that I'm the heir to the throne, he gives me the HM Surf so that I may continue my conquest to the eastern side of the region. We make our way to Fortree City, snagging the disc for Flamethrower and Thunderbolt from Mauville along the way. Once there, we skip the gym and go to Mount Pyre, where we get our last eligible encounter, Chimecho, who I dub Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, I now realize there are 2 Pokemon named Jimmy, but the name was too good to pass up on, so deal with it. With the host of the Tonight Show now on our side, no one could stop us. Not even Winona, who we go back to confront. Normally she's a run killer, but weirdly our team matches up against hers fairly well. Dwight can body her lead, Batten bats down Tropius, and putting the TM's Shockwave and Flamethrower on Chimmy and Weezer respectively allows us to take out the remaining grunts with ease. That just leaves the head honcho, Altaria, but even that isn't bad, as we can torment her with the General, making it easier to predict Altaria's ensuing moves and counter her with Jimmy Buffett. Having snagged another badge, we make our way to the next gym. Wait, what? I don't care about your damn wells. Take your sham moves and sham move them the hell out of my way. That's it. Not gonna lie, I was starting to forget about the whole red versus blue shit, and then this pimp squeak thinks he can boss me around. Oh, no sir, that's it. Final straw. I'm not doing any more gym stuff until these bozos have been wiped off the face of the earth. So, I figure out where Team Aqua's not so secret base is, tear my way through all their little henchmen, and I am just about to get my hands on their damn leader when the coward bolts off in a submarine. You cannot escape me! I will hunt you till the end of days! While searching for intel on where he could have gone, I end up finding Team Magma's base. This time around, I do get to their boss and give him a piece of my mind. By the time I leave the cave, Team Magma is no more. All I gotta do now is bring the same fate to Team Aqua. I figure I can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone though by heading over to Moss Deep, where I hear the gym is ran by a pair of psychic twins. Perhaps they could enlighten me on where Mr. Big Blue was. We still got a lot of content to cover, so I'm gonna do us both a favor and make this gym recap short. Oh, look! The enemy team! Oh, wonder how I got this intel. Oh, lucky me! It seems this guy and that guy can't hit dark types. Oh, whoa! Wait, I have a dark type right here! So yeah, all I really need here is Cacties to go Yamamil Tea and we are good. Oh no, 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 no. Yeah, well, guess what move the other floating rock on the enemy team knows? I bet you can't guess this one. It's Flamethrower. Flamethrower, it's Flamethrower. Really flamethrowing a wrench in my plan here. I should not have done this fight at 3 AM, but here we are. Thankfully, my idiocracy does not cause another death as Cacties toughs it out and we secure the next badge. Having been backed into a corner, the twins give me the info I needed to track down Team Aqua, with which I finally get to their leader, Archie, and give him the old Rocket 1-2. Oh look! Family reunion, yay! For some reason, Maxie's here now too, and we have ourselves the first ever villain summit meeting. First issue on the agenda. Backseat Archie have unleashed the apocalypse and are now refusing to do anything because some kid beat us up. Time to dissolve our criminal organization and not clean up any of the mess we made. Whoopsies. Ha 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 ha. Yep, I guess this is the universe getting its revenge on my father through me. And while I'm not one to do charity service, I kinda need the region to stay alive if I'm gonna steal its Pokemon and money. So I guess this one's up to me, the seemingly only competent trainer in Hoenn. Yada yada yada, I get the twins to reveal to me where another, more powerful legendary Pokemon is. I tell it Groudon and Kyogre have been talking smack on it, and voila! That's a global level threat dissolved. Speaking of dissolved, that happens in water. What are we doing next? Fighting the final gym leader, Juan, the water specialist. He isn't much of a threat though, as he leads with a love disc whose only gimmick is attracting confusion. If I go out there and put a safeguard, then pivot to Cactus, I can spam growth and get my special attack so high that no one on his team can stop me. With all the badges acquired, I was finally ready to enact the last stage of my grand vision. Become champion of this forsaken region so no one is strong enough to stop me or Team Rocket ever again. After some prep work collecting TMs and, burning my Pokemon, we head off to the Elite Four. First up is forgettable biker gang member, Sydney, who is not just a specialist of dark types, but a specialist of L's, as we're able to get through him with little trouble. I mean, 3 of his 5 Pokemon have easy counters on our end. Chop Huey chops through his Mightyena, Cacturn can't take an aerial ace from Baton, and our pseudo-electric type Weezer can one-shot his Crawdart. But the other 2 on his team are a tad tricky, as one knows Double Team and the other has access to Swords Dance alongside some annoying coverage moves. However, a handy-dandy CD stolen from the Flying-type gym gives General Baton access to Aerial Ace, a move that bypasses accuracy checks and, in doing so, allows us to easily solve the first problem, Shift Tree. And because no one else matches up well versus the latter issue, Absol, we can use Baton to counter it as well via a combo of Super Flirting and Confuse Ray, putting it in a mental fog so deep that it can barely function nonetheless hit us, in turn securing the dub. Up next is Phoebe, the Ghost-type connoisseur. She wasn't exactly a pushover like her predecessor though, as she led with a Dusclops with Confuse Ray and Curse that could easily prevent most sweep setups, on top of which she had some decent coverage moves on her remaining Pokemon. Taking advantage of the initial Dusclops though, we can lead with Chop Huey and go for a substitute. A risky move given how the burn boosting his Guts ability RA takes away a decent amount of HP, but in doing so, we were able to ensure no one on our team gets cursed, since the latter can't hit through substitute in this generation. Admittedly, I made the mistake of assuming our professional athlete was faster and he could have been hit by a curse on the first turn, but luckily Dusclops opted for a protect. Thanks to which, she was left wide open for an Earthquake, which is not only boosted in power by our ability, but by a soft sand I gave Machamp right before the fight. Given how our aforementioned burn status meant Huey was a ticking time bomb, the move from there was just to spam Earthquake and take out as many of Phoebe's Pokemon as possible. Sadly, this only nets us one bonus kill before we get to critically low health. On the ensuing Bayonet, yes, Phoebe has 2, we swap to Cactus, whose dark typing gives her a strong enough edge to outmuscle the opponent. And on the Dusclops that follows, we get in 1 hit before an Ice Beam freezes us, forcing me to swap to Jimmy Buffett. I brain fart though and forget counter can't hit ghost types and Jimmy pays the price. So we then pivot to Baton, who is able to finish the job thanks to her speed, but she gets pretty hurt in the process. This complicates things for Phoebe's final Pokemon, a Sableye who I originally intended to defeat with Baton, since it knows Double Team and can easily become an unhittable nuisance for the rest of the team. Sadly, as already mentioned, our Winged General was too wounded to finish the job. Knowing Sableye was pretty weak offensively though, I risk it and go for a Torment to at least slow down any potential Double Team spams, and end up getting a free turn. Cocky, I stay in and go for an Aerial Ace, only to nearly die! With only 1 Pokemon left whose typing and remaining health stood a chance versus Sableye, I go to Weezer, who gets off to a promising start by connecting with a Thunderbolt 3 times before missing on what would have been the final blow. This dodge was likely thanks to a second Double Team that Phoebe had put up just beforehand, and because of which, things began to look troubling as now all of our attacks had a 60% chance of connecting. It all came down to this next move. Either Weezer would make another hit, or we'd lose a team member. Bada bing, Weezer drops the green album and saves the day! Things don't get any easier after that scare though, as now we have officially entered big boy territory. Why, you might be asking? Well, simply put, the next two trainers are Ice and Dragon type specialists, or in other words, specialties that'll f me up. I don't know how much you've been paying attention up to this point, but if you knew the Pokemon we had available for the E4, you'll notice that we were severely outclassed here. I mean, she's weak to Ice types, she's weak to Ice types, he's too slow to sweep, and no one can learn any Ice type moves of our own to counter the Dragon type master. To say the outlook wasn't bright was an understatement, but damn it, we have been underdogs this whole game and it hasn't stopped us yet, and it won't stop us now. Without further ado, the battle versus Glacia kicks off. For this fight, I lead with Jimmy Fallon and get a yawn off. In doing so, I create a safer cushion for Chop Huey to come into, throw up a substitute, and go to town with Brick Brick, a TM that I had saved for this very fight. This little trick of ours allows us to knock out 3 of Glacia's 5 Pokemon with ease. By the time Huey has to swap back in, out comes her level 52 Glalie. Her level being key because she has 2 of this Pokemon, and only the one at level 52 knows Explosion. My hope was that it would come out during Chop Huey's run, but sadly it didn't. Throw in how our 4-armed friend lost his substitute and can't outspeed the Ball of Ice, and I have no choice but to pivot to someone else. Thankfully, I realized before the battle there was a chance Chop Huey wouldn't take out this Glalie, so I had 2 backup plans, Weezer and Jimmy Buffett. However, I wanted to save the latter for the ensuing Walrein, so I made the backup plan around our musical hero instead. Specifically, I made sure to teach him the move Protect via a TM I bought at Lily Cove shortly before the league. The idea being that Glalie would either A, blow up immediately so Weezer would eat the attack upon switching in and probably live since it's a physical tank, or B, the Ice Ball would follow human logic and wait till it was critically wounded before it blew up. AKA, if I managed to get out there and put Glalie in range for a kill, there's a chance it'll use Explosion on the next turn out of spite. Admittedly, the latter was entirely a hunch, and there's a chance Glacia would pick her moves at random, but since Situation B begins to unfold, I figure it's worth a shot. If I fail, it'd likely be the same outcome as if Weezer didn't protect here anyway, so why not? Risking it for the biscuit, our gamble pays off as Glalie explodes before our eyes. Weezer attempts to get out a crappy one-liner, but I am too focused on the Walrein that follows and I swap to Jimmy before he can finish. Pause for a sec. This Walrein in particular was someone I especially struggled to plan for since, as mentioned before, most of our Pokemon were weak to Ice-type moves or were so slow/weak that they'd likely die before reaching it. This left me with only one possible plan that I could think of, and it's the kind of plan that I hate. Luck. More specifically, bank on the fact that 2 out of 3 of Walrein's attacks are special attacks, and therefore it was likely that Jimmy Buffett can deal some significant damage by spamming Mirror Move. Hopefully this should do the trick. The battle starts off promising as Buffett is able to deal a lot of damage on her first Mirror Move. However, the AI seems to have figured out my gimmick and starts going for Sheer Cold, a move with a 30% chance to one-shot me. The first attempt misses, but I begin to worry this will continue until the 30% chance hits, leaving Jimmy completely vulnerable with, no direct attacks or whatever. With no one else to pivot to, I stay in and stick to my guns, only for Glacia to go for another Sheer Cold. Thankfully, it's another miss. On the third go around, Walrein goes for an Ice Beam as I clench my cheeks. Jimmy Buffett, though, clutches the win, as she barely holds on to deal the finishing blow. Another E4 dub miraculously with no deaths. We can't celebrate just yet though. Remember that other typing I said we were built horribly for? The dragon types? Yeah, well, their specialist Drake is next. To make matters worse, I realized I forgot to pick up the copy of the TM rest that you're meant to grab beforehand, and I had this whole sleep talk gimmick with Machamp that I was gonna try here, but nope. Guess my original plan's out the window. The battle kicks off and we lead the same way as we did last time. Fallon puts up a yawn, but this time follows up with a Reflect. Once again, shout out to my boys at Lily Cove Department Store. Then we go to Chop Huey, who takes advantage of the sleeping Pokemon. Wait, raising? Not like Bill Cosby, but rather by performing a bulk up and then unleashing its wrath with Facade, the move we stole from our father way back when. This, once again, ends up netting us 3 kills by the skin of our teeth. By the time Huey is literally burnt out, Drake unleashes his Flygon. We swap to General Baden and thankfully get a free turn thanks to him going for an Earthquake. From there, Baden undergoes Operation Flirt and Hurt by going for an Attract and then spamming her strongest move from there. Somehow, someway, this works as Flygon goes down to the red, only for Drake to heal. With no other options, we continue the operation, and I guess Flygon must have really been wooed because we get him down to the red again, only for, oh, you will never guess, Drake to heal again! At this point, Baden was at half health and I didn't know if our luck could hold out. Someone was gonna faint soon. But let me tell you, it was not Baden, as we managed to knock out the rat on round 3. All but confirming that Attract is a broken move. This just left Drake's ace, Salamence, one of the consensus strongest Pokemon in the entire franchise. And with its moveset, we only had one man left to do the job. The ultimate trump card, and definitely not the infamous songwriter. You know her, you love her, Jimmy Buffett! So we swap into the Blue Terror and take a small hit upon landing. Recalling that this Dragon rocked a super effective crunch and that 3 of its 4 moves in this gen were special attacks, I decide to go for a mirror move. And what do you know? Drake goes for the aforementioned super effective move, but it's not enough, as Jimmy lives to save the day once again by one-shotting the foul beast. Praise be the Blue Terror! May she take you to the great Margaritaville in the sky! And just like that, this ragtag team of misfits had inexplicably made their way to the champion. Their next opponent though was a mixed bag. While our team matched up better versus Wallace, he didn't have a single Pokemon I felt good setting up on, meaning I couldn't just make 1 or 2 solid plays like usual. Instead, things were going to have to be more fluid. We kick off with a familiar face in Chimmy Fallon. Thanks to the power of TMs, we're able to put up a light screen immediately as Wallace's lead, Wailord goes for a Rain Dance. Thanks to this, I can swap the Cacties with relative peace of mind, as this Wailord rocked the move Blizzard, which would otherwise one-shot us without this barrier. Once out, our green friend can put on her best impersonation of Cell from Dragon Ball Z and suck the life out of the behemoth. Next up is the champ's signature Pokemon and my biggest concern, Milotic. By now you know what we do to the enemy's biggest threat, right? We give him one of these! And by one of these, I mean Jimmy Buffett. Knowing that this Milotic only had special attacks, all it took was spamming Mirror Move and praying we could get the job done before fainting ourselves. It takes a second thanks to the foe leading with Toxic, but after which he joins the spam battle himself, repeating the move Surf until my mini plan comes to fruition. However, it wasn't enough, as the poison takes Jimmy Buffett's life immediately thereafter. At the very least, the loss of our MVP gives us a clean swap to our other Chimmy, and man did he need it as Fallon gets outsped by the opposing Tentacruel and taken to half health by a Hydro Pump on the first turn. With no good swap-in options and having dealt a significant blow ourselves, I decide to risk it and stay in. Buffett must have been looking out for us from above though, as Hydro Pump misses and Fallon is able to finish off the job with a Psychic. Wallace follows up with a Ludicolo. This Pokemon right here was the main reason I saved the Aerial Ace TM for the Elite Four, since it spams Double Team and it has access to Giga Drain and Leech Seed. Wasting no time at all, I go for a Yawn while the party animal predictably starts cloning itself. Waiting for my status condition to kick in, I figure I might as well throw up a light screen while Ludicolo continues to undergo mitosis. Once he's asleep though, I go to General Baden and bat him down with 2 Aerial Aces. Next up is Whiscash, who probably wishes he wasn't 4 times weak to grass types, as Cacties is able to easily swap in and suck him dry. That just left one final enemy, a Gyarados that was rocking Dragon Dance. Now, if you don't have good electric coverage, you're probably gonna struggle here. But thankfully, we have our own pseudo-electric type in Weezer, who has access to the move Thunderbolt and the ability Levitate to boot. The latter being fantastic because it allows us to dodge one of Gyarados' only 2 physical moves in Earthquake. From there, all it takes is a simple zap to defeat the fish and take our rightful throne as ruler of the Hoenn region. As we secure victory, May and the professor run into the room, hoping to help Wallace defeat me, but it was too late. We had become champion and no one could oppose me. And therefore, no one in this damn water-filled region could stop the mighty Team Rocket. The dawn of a new era has arisen!